So I'm tying up another Carrie Stevens streamer today from the Hilliard book. This is The Chief. It's a handsome little fly, the olives and browns in this. The head on this is different from a lot of her normal ones that are a black head with a colored band. This is a red head with a black band. Now, if you watch the video to the very end, you'll notice that as I was putting in that black band and putting the whip finish on it, one little wrap kind of went stray on that. And as I was scooching it with my thumbnail to get that back in, the whip finish started to come undone at the front. The red whip finish started to come undone. So I had a little pigtail on there. Different ways I talked about fixing that. I chose to just throw some head cement on there, let that set up, and then I could trim that off. What I didn't think about is until after, when I was doing that, was that it was just as easy to reattach my red thread right up front here, wrap back a little bit, clip that pigtail off, smooth it off, put in another whip finish, and go. And so it cleaned it up nicely. So that's just, I wanted to point that out as to why this looks a little different than it did at the end of the video when I was putting all this together. And but sometimes you just think of different things to recover and keep moving on. So that's The Chief. I'll get started tying. So I'm going to start The Chief with my hook and the vise. This is a Partridge CS15 in a size 4. A little bit longer, a little bit heavier hook wire on this, as well as the shank's a little bit longer, even though it's a 9X. It is a little bit longer than some of these other streamers, or hooks, I should say. I went with this because the olive hackle and brown hackles in the wings are a little bit fuller and a little bit longer, so I could go with the little bit larger hook. Now there is a red floss body on this, so I'm going to start with a Danville 210 denier in white as a underbody. There is also a red tail, red hackle tail on this. So I will put down a base layer of thread here to get back to where I put the tag in. Tag is silver, so is the rib. So my thread's back to the end of the body, the floss body here, where I'm going to tie in my tag. Tag is, as I mentioned, a silver tinsel. I'm using a Danville size 10 gold and silver Mylar tinsel. I'm going to tie this in with the gold side up. I'm going to advance my thread down to the end of the shank, which on this particular hook is just between the point of the hook, actually almost just right behind the point of the hook, and the barb. Maybe one more wrap there. If you go all the way back to the barb, you're going down the bend. Advance my thread back up to the tie-in point, and I'll apply the tag. Secure that down to the hook, and then I can trim away the excess. Now I'm going to tie in the tail. The tail is just some red hackle fibers. I'm using some, this is a Whiting American rooster saddle. And I'm just going to, I'm going to isolate probably on here, rather than counting, I would probably say about a ½ an inch maybe of these barbs. I want to get them so that they're more or less perpendicular from the rachis And then holding those, I'll peel those away and I'll clump those together. I want to trim the little curlies off here just so that it gives it a little bit more taper and it's a little smoother. I don't have as pronounced bump in the back here, which I'm going to have anyway. Now I'm just going to get 2 wraps in there, making certain that stays on top of the hook shank. I'm going to put in my rib, which is the same tinsel. I'm going to attach this with the gold side out. You just need a little bit in the body there just to secure that. Now I'm going to put my floss on. This is a Danville 4-strand rayon in red. I'm going to put this in so that that floss is on my side of the hook and goes up about halfway up the hook shank here. You could have it go all the way up if you want. I think that that's well enough. You can see I've got a little bit of a bump there, so I'm going to try to just smooth that off just a little bit, going back and forth just a little, trying to smooth that down a little bit. That way it just looks a little bit nicer. Now I'm going to bind in the rest of that floss along the hook shank, getting a nice underbody for the floss itself. When I get up to my thread up to the eye of the hook, or I should say into the end of the body, then I'll apply the floss and that rib. With my thread up in the end of the body, into the head space there, I'll now apply the floss and the rib. I'll trim away the waste here. Now you probably noticed that when I was tying this in, that floss got kind of short at the end. And that is because obviously it wasn't quite long enough. I could have used a couple more inches. It's just easier to handle. That's part of the reason that I did not take the floss underneath all the way up to here to smooth things off. Because if you do, then you have a very long piece of floss that you're flipping around and it tends to snag and sometimes get tangled. So I just kind of cheat a little bit there. As you can tell, you don't really see much of a transition or anything here where that floss terminated right here. It all looks fine. But that's one thing to keep in mind when you're creating these bodies, is make certain that you have enough floss that you don't have much left over, or I should say any shorter than what I had here, because it just gets to be a pain. So the Chief has the head on this is a red thread with a black band. As I mentioned, it's very similar to another fly she did in a video I did called the Jenny Lind. So I'm going to use my red thread here to trap the white thread, securing it, and then cut away the white thread. The red thread that I'm using is a Danville 70 Denier in red. The Chief has a very, very simple body. There's just a white throat on this. There's no bucktail underbelly or anything, and then there's the wing that's tied in. For white, I'm just using some white Schlappen. I'm going to tie these in 3 clumps. They're going to go down about halfway down the body. I'm going to tie one on the bottom, and then I'm going to tie one on each side. And when I say side, I don't necessarily mean the exact side of the hook. I don't want it to be coming and creeping up over to the top of the hook. I just want it next to the one that I tied on the bottom, but kind of on the side. The idea behind this is that when she tied her streamers, if she had a little bit of thread from putting the body in and everything showing, she could cover it up with the throat. The idea being that underneath, if, let's just say you put in a underbelly of bucktail and you wrapped it in and there was a little bit of thread back here, you could kind of cover that up with some of this throat that goes on top, and then the wing that's going to be on top is going to cover any of that right there. Kind of an interesting approach in terms of trying to keep things nice and neat, but at the same time, you're not bulking up, the head space and everything where the wing gets tied in. So I'll clean this up. This is going to be my head space right here. I'm just going to smooth this off a little bit so I have a nice platform for the wing. The wing on the Chief is 4 olive hackles. So that's 2 on this side and 2 on the other side, with a brown hackle on the outside and then a cheek of jungle cock. Now you'll notice on these that the brown is just a little bit shorter than the olive on these, and that's intentional. It's not part of the original recipe, but it's intentional on my part because the rooster saddle that I got that's brown has a lot of, as you can see, a lot of black in it. And this is just the way they turn out sometimes. However, some of the feathers that I used that were the right size for this they didn't have any of this black way up in or near the tips, but they had black right down in, I'll pull one of these out. They had black right down at the base. So I could either, get this the right wing with a little black in the base, and then it would have been even, or I could have gone a little bit shorter on the brown and then just had a nice brown on the wing. So I opted for that. So that's why these hackles, the brown hackles, are just a little bit shorter than the olive. That was not in the original recipe. Like I said, that was just intentional on my part. I don't think it's going to, in terms of fishability, make any difference. If you were to frame some of these, gift some of these, or whatnot, I think it would be acceptable to just have a little bit of that brown being a little bit shorter. But if you wanted to be exacting, then you would have to find some other hackles for that would fit right. So I'm going to tie in the left wing, securing that down, making certain that that's nice and vertical where it's supposed to be. The thread's just sliding off the end of that, so I'm going to scooch that a little bit more forward. There we go. And that secures that in a little bit over just the way I want it to be. Take the other wing and set it up. This is the right side, right up there next to the left. So as you can see, both of these are right on top together on top of that hook. That looks good. So I'll bring my thread down to the eye of the hook here, working my way back. I'm going to fill all that in, cover it all up, shape the head, and then securing the red thread, I will attach the black thread to make the black band in the middle of this. Now, often in her flies, she has a black head with a colored band, whether it's red or orange. This one, like I said, is similar to the Jenny Lind, where it has a red head with a black band. The black thread that I'm using is a Danville 70 Denier in black. You can put some wax on your thread if you want to for this. I find that I don't need to. But if you like that because it is a little bit easier for you or grips a little bit better, by all means. So I'm going to get a few wraps, my jam knot in there, trim away the tag here. Then I'm going to get a few wraps in here, widening that band out. I want to make certain that is not taking up too much of the head space. Should have an even portion of red and then black and then red again. I'll put in my whip finish, making certain that's right, stays on that black band. Take your time with this. Again, if it's a fishing fly, I don't think it's going to make or break it if you have a little bit of black thread that wandered off somewhere into the red or something like that, like I just did. What happened there was that last loop of my whip finish, see if I can repair this, kind of jumped off out front. Now, see, I can't repair that without messing up the red. I'm going to leave this mostly because this is just going to be a fishing fly. If I were to want to frame that, it's one of those things where, you know, sometimes you do these and you get everything just perfect until the last little thing like this happens and you're kicking yourself and all this. My thumbnail's kind of scooching that back. There you go. My thumbnail's getting it. If I were going to frame this or something, I probably would take the black off, unwrap the red to redo that red on there. But what I'm going to do is go ahead and get some head cement on this. That will secure those threads and thread wraps, and then I can Yeah, I don't want that unraveling, so I will secure this with some head cement. Then I can pull that red tag off and trim that, which I shall do, so you'll see it in the introduction. So that is the Chief. Body is pretty much the same as a lot of hers. It's a handsome little fly. But I thought it was kind of interesting that the brown hackles and the issue that I have with that saddle and how you can get around some of those things at different times. But so that's the Chief. Thanks for watching today. Thank you for joining me at the Vise today. I hope you learned a new pattern, at least a tip or trick here and there. If you'd like to help Dress Irons, you can like, comment, share, subscribe, all those wonderful things for the video. You can also head out to dressedirons.com where you can buy flies, tools, stickers, and merch, or you can join a growing community over on Locals at the Dressed Irons Fly Tying Guild. You can also donate to Dressed Irons if you want through the link at the bottom of the description. I thank everybody for their ongoing support, as it really does help the creation of these videos. But what's important is to remember, only fly tying. If you're not having fun, you're doing it wrong.